Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source. We build contractors to help contractors build great teams. Natalie Luneva, I hope I got it right, is with me today as my guest from great to elite. That sounds like elite for a lot of people, from great to elite. So, Natalie, what is it you do for contractors?
Hi, Paul. Thanks a lot for having me. I help blue collar home services, trades, construction companies double their profit. So this is my goal, is because a lot of companies talk about, hey, I am a $5 million company. They talk about revenue. But then the more I talk about those companies and the more I talk to those owners, the main complaint is, yes, maybe we're a $7 million company, but then my profit is actually much less than what it was when I was a smaller company. And so my goal is to help companies be more profitable. I maximize their profits today with the goal to create a more sellable, more valuable company in the future if they consider selling it, because maybe they just like it because the systems are set up and automated, and then we don't need to sell. But everything we do to grow profits is going to help the company down the line.
Having been a coach for a lot of years, one of the experience I have is that some guy, let's say, I think he's a plumber, whatever he is, right? He's making, $150,000 a year as a plumber, and he's working 40 hours a week. And then he decides, well, I can do this on my own because my boss is not any smarter than I am. So he goes in his own business. He starts a plumbing company, right? Then he gets a plumbing company going, and then he hires his friend, and then they have three people, and everything. Now he's going, wow, And then down the road, like 3 years, he's doing $2 million in plumbing, and he's making less than he was making as a plumber and working a lot harder, right? So, how come when they start a business and they hire people and they start to run the business, as it grows, their profit does not grow the same level as their gross income? What mistakes do people make, and why does that happen?
Yeah. There's a great book called E-Myth that talks about the myth of being an entrepreneur. Lots of people want to be entrepreneur and start their own companies because they're great at their thing. They're great at being a marketer, being a plumber, being an HVAC person, or whatever it is that they're doing, handyman, and they want to help people. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to start my own company, thinking that, okay, all that I need to do is just do this, and I'm going to do this great, and people are going to love it, forgetting that there's an entire business side of running the business behind it, right? And so that is where majority of the people are bogged down. They hate it. They were not prepared for that. And that's why many people choose to be a franchise, buy into a franchise company instead of running their own business. But I'll tell you what, I work with so many franchise companies that are suffering. Their margins and their profits are squeezed so tight because they need to give this, royalties to the company, and then the leads that they're buying are so expensive, and they do not have ownership of their marketing. They don't have ownership of their Google My Business listing accounts and all of those things, and it's just a nightmare. So they go into being a franchise owner thinking that it's going to be better, but in the end, it's not. And so they're kind of in between all of those problems. Do it myself, hire somebody else, or buying into a franchise. And all of them it's a struggle. So need to have a proper mindset. So to answer your question, where do they get it wrong? A lot of the times it's on the very first. So a lot of the times they think that they don't have marketing, so they need to hire a marketer. They need more leads. And so they talk to a marketer like it's a silver bullet. They would hire somebody, they would buy leads. And a lot of the times it's like for the next 6, 12, 18 months, it's figuring out if they're just starting out, it's figuring out why it doesn't work. And then in the end, once they do get to work, once they do understand what it is that's bringing their traffic and leads and what's getting the leads to convert, then there's like a next battle. How do I price those correctly? How do I make sure that the profit margins are correct? Once you get to that point, it's then, it's like every single step on every single step of a customer journey, there is a different bottleneck. And I think founders are not ready for that.
I guess what happens now, what are the typical mistakes? They don't track their numbers, they don't their margin is, they don't know how to run a business, they don't, figure out how to build a team. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. What do you see are the biggest mistakes that people make in this transition?
Number one, I think they think that there is a silver bullet, that somebody else is going to come and help them. And that's why they're hiring a sales coach in person or a marketer who is going to give them the leads, or a bookkeeper, accountant, or whoever. And in the end, I think it's like you're looking in the mirror and not in the
Right.
window, which is problem number one. But also, I see that as an opportunity, because if you are the problem, then you are also going to be able to fix that. I drilled down the entire company into 5 growth levers, or
Okay.
engine, and that is money engine is number one, marketing and sales is number two, operations, what it takes to deliver after a project is being sold, and then people and owner leadership, whatever you want to call it. So to me, those are 5 things. And a lot of the times, founders are focusing on, I need more leads. And so they're thinking about marketing and sales engine, not really thinking that even marketing and sales engine actually consists of multiple things. And it's not just lead gen. It's also converting those leads. It's also tracking conversion at every point. It's also thinking about the referrals. And so those 5 engines and then sub engines and kind of multiple things are what's really the challenge. And I think when they go to a coach or a business consultant and they say, or let's say they go to an SEO person, a content person, or whoever to get their business, more business, of course, that person is going to say, if it's an SEO person, they're going to say, you need better website and more SEO. If it's a content person, you need more content. If it's a sales training person, well, you need better salespeople. I'm going to train them. The way that I look at it is every company has different priorities depending on the stage that they're at, the strength of the owner, the founder, their team, and many other things like the geographic area, and it's just overall the economy and things like that. And so when we operate in a business in this very multitude of the multitude of things need to be considered, there's a no one silver bullet. It's looking at the business. My first thing that I do is I look at benchmarks. Majority of companies operate at below 20, maybe 15% bottom line profit. And then all those things come next. So I work closely with bookkeepers, accountants, or fractional CFOs. I can look on those numbers myself. And these are the points that I see, okay, here's the problem, this is the problem, and this is the problem. And then we will gonna come up with a solution based on your specific scenario, and not just overall, hey, I'm a marketer and I'm gonna improve your website and do more SEO.
Well, now what happens with these guys is that you're right, they got different talents. Some guy might be good at selling, some guy might be good at organizing, somebody else is good at building teams. And so their talents are different depending on who they are as a human being. And you've got to structure the business around what they do well, right? If they can sell, then they're good, but they can't organize, you need somebody to organize the business. So how do diagnose the plumber who's trying to become a craftsman to make the transition to entrepreneur? How do you diagnose what they're good at, what they're not good at, and the things they need to hire done versus do themselves?
Yep. My background is in multiple things. I started more than 15 years ago in marketing. I then picked up operations very quickly because I realized that marketing alone is not what's going to grow a company. There has to be operational piece and making sure that whatever leads I'm bringing, they're actually converting. And then we actually also own financial software. It's a accounts receivable automation, invoice automation that integrates into QuickBooks. So to answer your question, I look at it from the entire big picture, from marketing, operation, finances, and all other angles. And we start from, there's a large questionnaire that I give them when I start working with them, and that is identifying those strong sides, weak sides, and maybe blind spot that they were not aware about. And then number 2 is I look at their financial, and so I get their P&L, and I look at the benchmarks and those things. And then I look at some conversion metrics, conversion points. And so all those three together give me a very good overview of what needs to be tackled first. For example, maybe it's indeed a website that is attracting zero traffic, and I see that in multiple paid tools. Or maybe they have $12,000 in outstanding accounts receivable and invoices that have not been paid, and they don't have set up automation to remind people about them. Or maybe their systems are not connected because multiple departments from marketing, sales, operations, fulfillment, accountants, they all work from different systems, or they have their own spreadsheet that they try to combine and it never works. So setting up the system, connecting those systems. So that's why it's very different, it's very unique, and the approach is different for every company. After diagnosing the problem, whoever is going to come to you and say, hey, yes, you need marketing, without really talking to you and identifying some angles and problems, that's not going to work.
Well, one of the problems is that most of the advisors have an agenda, right? I mean, if I'm selling marketing, I think it's marketing. If I'm selling, sales conversion, I'm selling sales conversion. If I'm selling some kind of project management software, I'm convinced that you aren't managing your projects effectively. So most people, if you go, to the internet and look at how to help my business, everybody you call on has a strategy based on selling their stuff, whatever their stuff happens to be.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you're a hammer, everything is a nail kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
So same kind. So
think about this as when you, think about this as when you walk into a trade show, and those are the worst for any owner because you're bombarded, and every single booth tells you that you need my stuff in order to grow. And yes, they are all correct, but in what sequence do you need to start working with them? That's the biggest question, because there is one bottleneck, and then those other problems are going to be beyond what's happening in the first choking point, right? And so we need to figure out the first choking point before we talk about everything else.
Well, to me, the first choking point is always the owner. He's the biggest problem, or she's the biggest problem. I mean, if once you say, look in the mirror, once they understand, okay, my business has problems because I'm not doing what I should be doing, then hopefully by working with somebody, they can figure out, okay, this is what I need to learn. This is what I need to shift in order that I can run a business. Because right now, if I can't sell, it's a problem. If I can't deliver, if I don't have my financials, I mean, the whole entrepreneurial thing is a lot of stuff, right? You're right. Everybody has their own talents, but trying to match their talents with their needs is something they sort of don't know what they don't know, right? I mean, they can't. So I guess someone like you is going to figure out, okay, I work a lot of businesses. This is your strengths. These are your weaknesses. You really need to start with, unless you can make a profit, it doesn't make any sense, right? So what's keeping you from being profitable? I'm sure you work on that, right?
Exactly. Yes. So I'm not affiliated with any particular company. I'm not affiliated with any particular tool or software. So whatever software, tool, or program you want to go after is fine with me. I am here as big picture person that can also roll up my sleeves and either work with your existing team. If you don't have the team, I can hire you people that are going to be, or I use somebody like you who is going to be able to hire those people. Or I can do those things myself. And so depending on whenever their situation and whether they wanted a short-term project for 2 weeks, they just need the system implemented, and then I will provide them with whatever 2-week implementation needed. If this is more long-term, hey, we need a person who's going to be continuously answering the phone or scheduling or doing something. Here's a funny thing. We recently did an analysis. We did a call. We placed a call to 160 companies at between 6 and 7 p.m. Guess how many of them answered the phone? 30.
10%, 30.
30 people answered the phone. So you do the math. What is it, like 20 something percent? So making sure that that is set up. So somebody like you who trains people, who places those people to make sure they're not losing those leads, because once you're not able to answer the phone, those leads are the next calling the next person, right?
Right. It takes if you don't answer in the first, I think it's 10 or 15 seconds, it falls off like a rock because you just go to the next one, next one, next one. They don't. Speed delete is really important. Um, so give me some success stories. I don't need the actual specific names, but who have you worked with who's a remodeler or plumbing contractor or somebody you can get, I went in and I did this and this is where it was and this is where
Yeah,
it is. You went from, as you said, great to elite.
yeah. So, couple of examples. I am running a mastermind group for contractors, and so every single week we talk to people. And when new people come, the first thing that they want to talk is marketing. And my goal is to show them that okay, this is many more things that can be discussed before we get into marketing. But here's one interesting example. I chatted with a company in the landscape business, and they are around $2 million company. They have 18 trucks, so it's an established company.
Right.
And when I talked to their admin person, the problem was more in like payments, accounts receivable. And so I asked to show how does she collect on outstanding payments and like what is the progress overall for all of that
Mhm.
accounts receivable. And she started walking me through some steps, and I'm like, okay, but why are you doing this step? She was particularly doing double work on sending out invoices. So she sent out the invoice in her Jobber software. So she would click a button, send out invoice, send out invoice. And then she would need to do some extra manipulations and do some extra things to do something and send it to her accountant so that the accountant is able to plug in those numbers for taxes or something. And I'm like, you don't really need to do this entire step because all of that is already automated in Jobber, so you can easily download whatever you click, 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 click. And by the way, you know what? You don't even need to click. You can set up an automation so that once the status goes from pending job to job complete, it's not, you don't even need to send out invoice. If you have credit card on file, and that's another conversation, do you have a credit card on file or payment method on file? You just say the job is complete, one click, the payment is charged, the receipt goes and is done, and then that is being generated into a monthly report that is being automatically sent to your accountant. So you see how that alone can save 5, 10, 15 hours a week
Yeah.
of a single person. And so that is my goal, to try and identify those choke points, those things that maybe don't even need to be done. We don't need to improve things that maybe they're not even, they don't have to
Well,
be done.
I think one of the big issues is most construction companies have like an organic development of software, right? They buy, a project management system and then they add to it, oh, well, this isn't doing, I need a CRM system. And well, maybe I need a lead gen system. And so they sort of get all these various organic systems together and they don't know how to run any of them. And they run into each other and everyone's saying, well, it's, the CRM saying it's the project manager project, everybody's pointing everybody else. So I'm assuming you know enough about these systems that you can sort of cure the organic development where they buy all this stuff and don't use most of it because they don't know how, and figure out what works and what doesn't work and say, okay, Jobber will do all this stuff. You can eliminate all
Yes.
this, or your job trend, whatever. So you can help them understand how to integrate software and make it work so don't have a bunch of stuff that's like duplicating. Does that make sense? That happens all the time.
Exactly. This is one of the things that we do. We look at how they're actually running their business, and we're looking for ways to streamline and automate and improve that. And then you can either train your people on the new process, because those people that are usually in your company already, they are probably there, just to click the numbers and do their things. And they
Right.
don't often understand how all of that connects together. And this is also the biggest, I think, problem and limitation is when a person is assigned to doing this job, this is all that they do. They don't look around how the rest of the things are connected or how that impacts the next person down the line. And so somebody, either the owner, or if owner is not, it's not up their wheelhouse at all, then somebody like me comes and says, let's look at the entire business, the entire customer journey from A to Z. I'll tell you one more interesting idea. I was doing a presentation a couple of months ago, and it was titled How to Double a Business without doubling marketing or number of leads. And in a nutshell, it's, let's say that there are 4 conversion points from somebody landing on the website and converting into a lead. That lead convert into a scheduled appointment converts into a quote gets accepted, and then hopefully the customer refers customers. So let's say that there are 4 points, conversion points. If we were to increase on every point just by 5% or 7%, we are increasing our revenue by 40%. If
Right.
we are increasing on every single step just by 12%, we're actually doubling the revenue. So looking at all of those systems and points is something that I help with to, number 1, increase revenue, and number 2, how does that revenue generate into profit, and what are some of the overhead or variable costs that can be saved so that we boost our profit as the bottom line.
Well, I would say the most frustrating part in people I've dealt with coaching is that they're working harder and making less and don't understand why. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, it sounded really good. Now I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm making less when I'm making less than $6 million, I was making $3 million. And I don't even know what's going wrong. They have no concept because they just keep throwing money at it or time at it, and it doesn't get any better. So
correct.
now,
and so when we start working with them, we actually take a map of all of their financials, and then we actually give them the map. This is where you are. It's like turning on the light in a dark room. And then now everything becomes clear. Now even they themselves can understand, okay, I'm looking at those numbers. I now see which numbers we should work on first.
Right. That makes sense. So now that people want to get in touch with you, how do you charge for what you do, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yes, check out our Great to Elite Accelerator that is scheduled for next year, 2026. It is a 52-week, 1-year accelerator where we are working on doubling your profit. And it's you can find it at greattoelite.com.
Okay. So they just go to there and they set up an appointment. You can talk about what you do and how you do it and that kind of thing, right?
Exactly, yeah. Once you land on the website, you'll get a couple of options and to connect with me.
Okay, well, now I appreciate you being here. I mean, obviously it's a huge problem. I mean, there's millions of contractors literally, and most of them are working harder and making less. Just not a good. And then you add to the other things like the economy's not going great, they have a hard time finding people, all those issues. So I would say if you're not getting out of your business what you think you deserve, you should probably give Natalie a call.
Thank you. And you know what? Now that we talk about touch the subject of the economy, it's interesting how different companies, because I have this mastermind, different companies and different, maybe it's areas or maybe there are many more things, but some companies are killing it. They say that this year has been their best year ever. And so when another person actually listens to that, it's like, okay, what's wrong with my company? And so this is why in a mastermind that I'm hosting, it's really beneficial to hear the other owners in the same boat and what's happening there. So I invite you to reach out.
I mean, the labor shortage is self-created. Somewhere we found 4,000 people in 3 years. And, I mean, so if you do it right, the customers and the employees are there, but you got to know how to do it right. So Natalie, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul.